Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we are the podcast chronicling our journey through wellness, and that can include diet, not a diet, as much as just what we eat. Also exercise and movement throughout the day, and mindset. We have gotten to be, as we've gone through this, we've uncovered mindset is a huge component. A lot of us know what to do, but trying to figure out how to do that and do it consistently over long periods of time, that can be the challenge. So, we bring you podcast kind of updates on our situation, talk a lot about diabetes, but also we have professionals in their disciplines on from time to time. Today is no different. Terry, I'm going to let you introduce Dr. Lori.
Yeah, Dr. Lori Monaco, a.k.a. the Badass Buddha, is an authenticity teacher, coach, and speaker, chiropractic physician, co-host of the YouTube and Facebook show Viva Cafe con Leche, and the blog talk radio show Viva Moms After Dark. She's the creator of the 7 Core Pillars of Alignment, Transformation University, Blast, VIP and group coaching, and the Evict the Fat Wellness program featuring Cairo Thin. Lori specializes in mindfulness and transformation and has created online and in-person workshops for corporate, healthcare, education, and lay people. Badass Buddha teaches people how to love more, laugh more, live more, be happy, be real, and be themselves to create peace and harmony for a more fulfilled life. She's a compassionate and silly human, a loving mom, and a proud Gen Xer. She is unapologetically herself and teaches and inspires others to be the same. Dr. Monaco, Badass Buddha, welcome to the show.
Who's that professional? She sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Like, who is that?
It's like, who is she talking about?
You're like, oh, we have professionals time to time. I'm like, who? Who's the professional?
That's right.
Now, I've been on those shows before where they introduce you, and I'm like, okay, let's stop here because it's only going to go downhill from...
Oh, my gosh.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. We really appreciate it, and we're excited. Tell us a little bit about how you got here. I mean, you've got a lot going on, but, it's helping people. Did you grow up wanting to be a professional that helped people, or did you kind of take the long and winding road into this?
I guess I've always been very compassionate, and without knowing the word empathic, I didn't realize that till I got older. Originally it was all animal based, so I wanted to be a vet, and I loved being around animals. And then I guess it was really in college. That's when, I took the 4-year plan, but I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. So I just kept switching my major. And I only have 2 siblings. I have a brother and a sister. My brother, and they're both much older than I. And my brother was a chiropractor. He still is. And I really resonated a lot with that. I knew I didn't fit in the mainstream, and I definitely didn't want to just dispense drugs and stuff to people. I just always believed in the power that made the body can heal the body. And so I opted to go into that. And then it was my transition over the years. So I've been a chiropractor for over 22 years.
Wow.
And I know I was like 10 when I graduated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And so, and then, it was great. And I did, when I was first 2 years, it was great. I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. And then I decided to, add something to my income. So I started teaching, and I was teaching post-secondary, like anatomy and physiology classes, pathology. And that's what I realized, that's what I was meant to do. And I was a speaker since chiropractic school, because they taught us to teach, wellness and teach your patients. So right. I definitely got bit with the bug, the speaking bug. And so I knew I liked that, but then teaching, I was like, wow, this is what I'm definitely passionate about and I'm very good at, So I did that for years, and almost 2 decades of teaching. And then, but a few years back, I hit a really low point in my life. I had depression since I was about 15. When I look back at it, it's probably since about 15. And had one major depressive episode, but was not prepared for the major depressive episode I was going to have just about almost 6 years ago. And it was so bad. It was 6 months long, 3 weeks were suicidal. And
oh, wow.
When I finally started to come out of it, and I said, okay, you know what? I don't I got to figure this out because I got to fix myself, because all these years, since I was a kid, I never felt right. I never felt like I was myself. And then I started a really deep dive into like the personal development. And it was at that point when I started to really feel better. I said, okay, I want to teach this. And so then you go on to the next phase. You're like, well, who does that? Oh, coaches. So, then you get certified to be a coach, and it's evolved from that. So I love working with people. Like, I love humans. I love animals too. I actually love all creatures. But humans, we have so much potential. And so I look back at all the years that I wasted because I just couldn't get out of my own way. So that got me to where I am today. And I'm so passionate about helping people, especially those that are really stuck, and especially those that deal with like depression and anxiety, which we have a hell of a lot about now. Like the amount that we have now with everything that's happened over the last year, it's just, before that it was already epidemic. Now it's even worse.
Yeah, and I'm concerned a little bit. We don't have to belabor that point, but we thought we would see, I guess, some things happen in the beginning, but I think the government stepped in and provided some funding, which helped people, at least have shelter and eat and all these other programs. But now that the extra unemployment's going away, a lot of these rent and utility, I don't say abatement because they weren't abatement, they were more just kicking the can down the road, but a lot of these programs are ending. A lot of people are being forced to go back to work after they've enjoyed working from home for a year. So, it's like...
Or not working at all.
Some
people just,
Yeah, so there's just a lot of things coming together all at once, and it kind of makes me wonder, what is this going to look like going through these next few months? And we've already, we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we've already seen, to me, what I consider an exponential rise in crime and violent crime and things that people are doing. So anyway, I think everybody seems to be stressed and at their wits' end, and there's so many great things that we can do to help ourselves both mentally and physically.
Oh, for sure. I think the biggest challenge was that there were many people, not the majority, but many people that took last year as a moment to breathe and to slow down and assess things. And it's those individuals who have had the most success.
Right.
They realized that, okay, this is not exactly, we don't know, but to say that we'll be back on track, remember in the beginning in March, they were like, oh, we'll be back on track by the summer.
Right.
And most people that were really thinking about it were going, no, it's not, it's going to be like probably about 1.5 years. So I'll prepare for it. I'll make the shifts. I'll do what I need to do.
Right.
And knowing that even when that's up, then we have to shift again. So those people, I don't want to call them enlightened people, but I think they just were more aware.
Yeah.
They had the best time versus the individuals who just wrote it and said, oh, I can't work. Okay, then the government's going to help me.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to be home. And instead of like bettering themselves, and I'm not blaming, the person, you only know what you know.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. But at the same time, that is a little bit of an excuse because we live in an age where you can find anything out. You can learn anything. And there was so much online. Yeah. I mean, there was so much available. There were so many free courses. There were so many different things. So I feel like in some ways that we as humans didn't step up as much as we could have. Yeah. Like people gained weight during COVID, they ate like awfully bad,
Yeah.
And we just sort of, and I say we, because that was me in the beginning. Like it did get overwhelming for me, but then I just like, okay, that's enough. And, and actually lost 40 pounds in COVID, during COVID. So,
that's awesome.
I'm telling you, it's like,
oh
this,
my
gosh. It's like, wow, so, but for the rest, it was just sort of, and then they come out and now they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't want to go back to work. I don't want this. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But they sort of didn't prepare themselves.
Yeah.
And, so my hope is that for those of us that really kind of had a good mindset going in and throughout that, because I believe in energy and I believe in the collective consciousness, and we need to put that out there. We need to, for those of us that decided to start new projects and did really well in 2020, put that out there for all these other people that are floundering, and say, you can do this. Like, you can do this. You just, it's everything, as Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
You know, because it is.
Yeah.
You know, we have that ability. We have these fabulous brains for that reason.
Well, and most people say they put on the COVID-19, and I said, well, I'm an overachiever. I did the COVID-38, so, you know.
Oh, well, good for you.
But, you know, I'll speak for myself. I'll let her speak for her. But, you know, I think I was one of the lucky unenlightened ones that didn't really know what to expect. But it was such an opportunity for us to slow down. And I think after a couple months into it, we were like, we really needed to slow down. It was just, you know, everybody is out fast paced, running here and running there. And, you know, now we've kind of made a pretty big switch is, you know, we're enjoying being home. We've figured out things, you know, we have enough to do to keep 10 people busy around here. So it's never a shortage of something, but, you know, getting out more in the back. I think Terry is, you know, when it's a long story we won't get into, but, you know, when she moved out here a few years ago, it was like she's not the pioneer woman, but, you know, she's adopted, you know, she's got her a herd of deer and some turkeys and other wildlife that she's taking care of now.
Well, I just got a herd of deer.
Yeah.
So
squirrels, raccoons, wild turkeys, weird.
So,
ducks.
you know, that's our thing is, you know, we wake up in the morning and see, you know, we kind of laughingly call them customers. We see how many customers we have out down at the cornfield. So anyway, you know, I think we were lucky because, like you said, I think, and we were lucky too because we were able to continue working. It didn't really disrupt a lot of things except the slowing down part, which I'm very thankful for at this point. I'm like,
I agree.
It's just nice to be able to take a breath and not always feel like you have to be somewhere else.
Yeah, and we took a lot of time took that time to work on our eating habits and different ways that we could eat to age better, as well as try to lose a few pounds. You know, and it's trial and error, of course, along the way. But, you know, just trying to figure out, I used to eat everything and anything and was grown up. When I grew up, it was on junk food, you know. Dad would buy 12 bags, big grocery sacks full of Halloween candy, and we might give one away if we were lucky. The rest of it, he ate probably, you know, 9 or 10, and we ate the other one, but we had to fight for it. You know, we just lived on peanut butter and chocolate, I'm telling you. And it was not a good, it wasn't, I mean, it was good then, but, you know, you get older, you start putting on the pounds, you don't even realize that it's happening, and next thing you know, you're 56, and you're like, what? Wait. Who's 56?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that just came out of my mouth.
Yeah, who was that? That's what I was wondering.
And you get diagnosed with something, too,
Yes.
and then we sometimes have the audacity to go, how did that happen?
Yeah.
We're like, well, you know, because we're taught to be detached like that, though. We're taught that, you know, I mean, how many times have you heard it's like, oh, you know, 1 minute they're saying you kids really shouldn't eat this much sugar, blah, blah, blah. And especially we're all around the same age. So it's like that really wasn't, you know, they'd say, oh, you know, the kids really shouldn't eat that much sugar, but it didn't matter. They push it now with more statistics. But you know, back in the day and even now, it's like, well, you know, you could get away with it as you know, you're going to have to change when you get a little older. You can't eat that way anymore.
Don't worry about it now.
But habits are habits. And if they're instilled at a young age, you know, like, it's funny. I hear this story a lot from people. I hear, you know, because I talk to people about their, you know, their habits that were forged since they were younger, and especially with eating. And I wasn't raised that way. I was actually, my mother was very limited. We were very limited on our sweet. Truly, like, we were not allowed to have sugar cereals. We were not, you know, we got ice cream every so often. And I look back and, I'm like, wow, I'm grateful. Like, I ate a lot of vegetables. I ate a lot of fruits, you know, but it was when I got older and I was on my own, I was like, oh, I could buy this myself, you know, and so sometimes it's not even that you're raised that way. It's just, no matter what, it's once you get the taste for it, It's a drug.
Yeah.
It's especially sugar.
It's
Yeah.
sugar
And
is.
so you get it in there and you're like, wow, I feel really good after I ate this. Why is that? And you don't, of course, you don't ask why that is. You just
Yeah.
say, oh, this, I
No,
got to
give
have the
me
chocolate.
more.
That's correct,
Yeah.
right? You don't realize that it's literally your chemicals being released in your brain that are saying, no, you want, this is really good stuff to have. And so we tend to be forced into the change. It's when you get the doctor says to you, oh, you're pre-diabetic, or, your blood pressure is up there and we're going to put you on meds. And what's scaring me nowadays is that the generation behind us are not as scared about the meds. So like our generation was probably the first generation to hit their 40s and 50s and be told, you need to go on meds.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you got to be kidding me? Like that. My parents didn't go on meds till they were in their 60s,
Right.
or something like that. And then we're like push and pull fighting a little bit. But I mean, I've seen over the years, the generations behind us, they're getting on meds in their 20s.
Wow.
And they're not even on just one med. And so for them to say, the doctor said, well, now you need to be on this med. All right.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Not realizing that just some changes in your diet could be a big game changer,
Well, I think what you talked about, habits, and I think there's some data out there that proves this, but like my generation, we had a couple fast food places. I mean, we live in a pretty big town. There were a couple fast food places that I knew about that, on a Friday night or Saturday, it was kind of a treat to go get a hamburger. But now they're on every corner, and you go down, we have like restaurant rows here where there'll be one street with nothing but fast food restaurants. And the surprising thing is, I noticed this when my kids were gone, but you could drive by at 9 o'clock at night and there were carloads of families that were just now going through eating, drive through stuff at 9 o'clock at night. And it surprised me, but I've heard since about this study that's just saying that, because of that, they were raised in fast food drive restaurants, that there are a lot of issues with these, with the younger generation, that 20 to 30-year-old group now because of that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's not, that we always talk, like we always hear this about the fast food places, but even beyond that piece, some people say, oh no, but I don't, we don't go to fast food store. We go food shopping. But if you're buying packaged food that goes into the microwave and it's already made, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And so I think it's a false sense of whatever, that they feel a little bit better. Like, oh, I'm not, I'm not going out to the fast food restaurant, but so I go to the food store. And again, it's all convenience. Our convenience is killing us. I mean, listen, who was out? Like, think about when we were kids. Who was out at 9 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
With their parents going to eat.
No.
We were already in bed, whether you're going to sleep or not, you're like, no, we ate at dinner time. Right. And remember back in the day, the TV used to go off at a certain time, or they used to have the commercial, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Yes.
And so it's but now it's parents just, it's their kids are up late, they're out. I mean, okay, I could see, I'm a little guilty with this with my kids. My kids definitely blew the bedtime. I used to go to bed real early, but my kids go to bed a little bit later than I did. But like you said, you're out at night, and 9, 10 o'clock at night, you have a family out just getting ready to eat or shopping at Walmart or whatever,
Gosh, yeah.
And I'm in my head going, isn't it late for these kids to be out? What is this doing to their sleep schedules, their chemical balances? I mean, all this stuff. But it's become so accepted.
Yeah.
So it's and then that all ties in. So if you're not getting the sleep you want and your body's stressed out, you crave the cruddier foods because that's just the way. I mean, you crave the carbs, you crave the and the processed stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a cycle that sets up.
And even when my kids were small, we lived in a small town at that time, so we were very structured. Dinner at 5 or 6 o'clock, kids in bed by 8 or 8:30. I couldn't imagine trying to get a child out of bed in the morning to go to school that didn't go to bed till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I mean, it was a fight with two that were getting plenty of sleep. I couldn't imagine that. We'd have to call the SWAT team in to get them out, to get them moving.
Get going.
But you're right, and that's what I notice about me is sleep deprivation starts the trigger of I don't feel good anyway. Now I think if for some reason it's that I want to eat something to get a little burst of energy, well then you have to keep doing it. You get a little high, then you get the valley.
Right,
So you
crash,
it's
yep,
just
back up.
it's such a bad cycle to get into, because that's where then I don't feel like getting out and exercising or moving. And to me, I've begun to see that is like the beginning of the end for me when things go wrong.
Yeah. And it takes the awareness to stop it. To say, okay, yeah, this isn't good, and
Right.
this isn't, and we're when we talk about, and everybody these days talks about habits, like, oh, well, this habit and this habit, and I don't think people even still really know how severe bad habits can be.
Yeah.
Habits are not, we're not just talking about the brain like subconsciously not thinking about. We're saying that it's a physical habit. It's not just about that you're craving something. Your body physically, it's just like they talk about with smoking. For
Yeah.
some odd reason, we always understand it with smoking. We're like, oh, well, there's the chemical addiction, there's the emotional and psychological addiction, but there's a physical addiction, holding the cigarette in your hand.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with food. It's like holding a soda cup in your hand, sipping through the straw. It's having a bag of chips sitting down next to you while you're watching TV, and your body has literally physically come accustomed to the fact that when you sit and watch this show, you're usually munching on this.
Yeah.
And so even if you try your best and you say, okay, I'm not eating this anymore and I'm not going to eat past this hour, you plop down, you put that TV show on, you're sitting in the same exact seats that you normally do, and all of a sudden you wonder why 10 minutes, and you say to yourself, I'm not even hungry. This is fabulous. This is great. I feel good. And then 10 minutes later, your body's like, where's the chip? Like all of a sudden you're hungry.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I thought about it. I'm full. Now why am I wanting to eat the chips?
Yeah.
Because that is the whole package. And we train our brain and inevitably our body to do it.
Yep.
And again, it's all about awareness. You have to become conscious majority of your day. And it's like, we're only like conscious about 5% of our day, right?
Yeah.
So in order to change it, you have to be conscious a lot more, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It really is, and so in the beginning, some people are really gung-ho about it, but that's why we lose the momentum. And that's why we fall off the wagon, so to speak, because we lose it as the more fatigued we get. So that's why in the morning, everybody's so perfect. Like people get up in the morning and like, I'm not eating this today. I'm good. And you're good all day. And then as the day goes on, you hit the afternoon, and then all of a sudden you're starting to feel it. It's a little harder. It's a little hard to say no to this. And then by a certain point, that's why sometimes I would say to my clients, don't eat. You're not going to eat past this time anyway. But if you find that you're getting hungry and you cannot, it's really becoming overwhelming, go to bed.
Yeah.
Like go to bed. And if they're like, well, I don't want to go to bed at like 9:00 at night, and blah, blah, I'm like, why not?
Why not?
Well, I got too much work to do. But if you're working and staying up on your computer and you feel like you want to munch on something, then just say, you know what, I'm just going to finish my work tomorrow. Get up earlier tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get up earlier. Go to bed now. And then you won't feel so guilty because you didn't eat before you went to bed. And how many times do we eat even when we're tired?
Yeah.
It's not even that we're actually hungry.
Yeah.
It's funny. We get cravings that we want to eat like we're, quote, hungry when we're tired and when we're thirsty. Sometimes thirst is what we're lacking. We're dehydrated.
Yeah, and I'm like that. I'm dehydrated all the time because I don't like water. And, talking about habits, I was in a habit of always having a Coca-Cola in my hand. It's been a while, but one day I mindlessly wandered over to the cabinet, and they were chickpeas, so it wasn't totally bad. But, I had my hand in there before I told Terry, I'm like...
Before he knew he did it.
So I'm standing over here, and I really wasn't even giving it a thought. Luckily I stopped. But the other night we had a good dinner, little vegetables with a little piece of meat. It was awesome. It was the right size. And then about an hour later, I'm like, I could sure use a snack. And she's like, well, are you hungry again? And I stopped and thought, and I'm like, no, my belly felt all full, but I felt it in my chest. And I don't know why, it just kind of like a sinking feeling up there. But, if you really stop and be mindful about where is this feeling coming from, and like then it was like, no, I'm not hungry at all. And I was able to push through. I wasn't happy about it, but I did.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
That's
it's a
right.
habit because, prior to Terry, that was my thing is, I would have all this bad night eating. I'd sit in front of the TV and eat some popcorn. I have to admit, I'd get in a car at 10 o'clock at night and drive up to the little quick stop place. Maybe they have nachos or ice cream, just a little snack just to kind of pick me up. And I'm like, like what you said, now thinking back, I'm like, why didn't I just go to bed? Because that's all I was really doing was fight and sleep for a few more
That's
minutes.
correct.
Yeah.
And why? Like, why do we, and what you were saying about, it's like before you know it, you're eating it, and then your brain catches up and you go, what am I doing?
Right.
But the interesting thing is, and for those out there listening, it's like once you have to be mindful. You cannot mindlessly do it, because mindlessness, you go subconscious and you're just you're on autopilot. So if you're changing the habit, you force it. You have to think about it. But interestingly, though, once you do it and it catches,
Yeah.
you also want to make sure that you honor yourself with saying when you're presented with the item that you used to eat or drink or whatever, and you have no desire for it, you have to honor yourself and celebrate it.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about this the other day. I could not remember the last time I had soda. And I was a big soda drinker. I mean, I didn't have it all the time in the house. I didn't actually, the cool part is I never bought it for my house.
No.
But I did go out a lot. Like I'd be on my way back from work and I'd stop, and the kids and blah, blah, blah. So we always had soda. And soda was like, Sprite was my beer when I would do yard work. People are sweating, they drink their beer. Sprite was my thing. So we're like, oh, you're going to run out to lunch to go get us something, get me, this and get me Sprite. So we were talking about it the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't had soda and I stopped for a second. I said, I don't even remember the last time I had soda. It must be like 6 years, 6 years.
Wow.
And I really loved saying it.
Yeah.
Like I loved saying it. I was like, I have not had it in 6 years. Like this is really, really cool. And again, I didn't have that big of an addiction to it, but to be able to say that, and it's whenever, if we do happen to go out to eat, whether it is a good food fast, we say that, or just a restaurant, I never ask for that, it's always water, and don't think twice about it anymore, and so I'm happy about me. And I still, there's still pieces that I do struggle with that I have to be very ridiculously mindful of not eating. But I'm so glad that there's certain pieces that I've let go, and it's so nice.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to not even think about it.
Yeah, and that I've cut way down. I mean, years ago it was worse, but that soda just, I guess I don't think it's really all as harmless as what they make it out to be. I've heard that.
Oh, it's not at all.
That the
Nor is
aspartame.
the diet.
Yeah,
The diet.
yeah, because that the aspartame
diet, yeah.
can eventually your body, it's getting some kind of a glucose out of it, so it uses that. But anyway, that's been tough. And also thinking about other triggers, like we did a lot of soul searching on ice cream because that is my thing. I mean, I could eat ice cream, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't need anything else. It's got, it's all the food groups all rolled into one. But we started talking about
Efficiency. It's about efficiency.
That's right.
yeah, right. Well, it's like I told somebody one time, it's like ice cream, it's just frozen cereal. So, I mean, really, But we traced this back about why it's such a big thing. And it's interesting that my two grandfathers and my dad, it's like whenever we had a celebration, that was the go-to. Like I'd go over to my grandparents and I'd be, that's just a little thing. I'd be out there helping him push the lawnmower or riding around or whatever, and be like, we put in a good day's work. Let's go get an ice cream. So one grandpa took me up to the drugstore, and then the other one they had a Dairy Queen right up at the corner of their street in a busy street. So I'd be like, hey, let's run up to Dairy Queen. We need a break. And then Dad, same way. You know, I'd be at his work with him even into my teenage years, and he'd always come out and stop me and like, let's go get an ice cream. So there's a little DQ down the road from him, and it's so vivid, my memory of sitting in that DQ with him, the jukebox. This will give away some of my age, but there's like a Van Morrison song playing. I mean, I can see it just like it happened this morning. So anyway, I think that also maybe there's a lot of emotional stuff that's tied to the eating. Is that, you know, that was good time spent with, you know, my loved ones for sure, but it was also reward for a job well done. So there's a lot more to it than, you know, just ice cream.
Or if you were sad, you know, something bad. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah. That's what makes it so challenging when people are, you know, like it's so easy to say, oh, we're going to switch to a clean diet and we're not going to eat processed anymore and we're not going to have sugar anymore and we're not going to take in dairy anymore and blah, blah, blah. And it is, you know, on paper it's so easy, but when you start to, I mean, listen, I grew up Italian. So like, I mean, I remember vividly going to my grandmother's every other weekend. The whole entire family would pile into her split level house and we would have multiple courses, and inevitably you'd always have the macaroni, that's what you called it, and the sauce, and the meatballs and the sausages, and then they take out the pastries after, and the espresso, and to me, it's, you know, and most Italians will tell you that, Italian Americans especially, that it was always around food, and there was always a joyful moment, and so, you know, I'll even to this day, I mean, I don't eat pasta anymore, but I'll to this day, like, when somebody does have pasta, that's what I think of. Like, I think of, oh, you know, grandma's house. And, you know, when the one thing I will say this, though, is that, you know, when we were all younger, not that I'm making an excuse for it, but when we were all younger, the quality was much better. Yeah. So like if you were eating the pastas and if you were eating the ice creams, it was so different than it was now. Even the sugar was different. It was still addictive. It was still not good, but now the amount of chemicals that they put in these things and the flavoring and it's just, we are so not just addicted chemically and physically, but it's actually tearing us up. Like this is not good stuff anymore. And it's like, you know, it bothers me because we focus so much on, not that we shouldn't, you know, like this whole thing with what happened last year and the virus, but we have to really step up and look at the bigger picture here, that we, you know, our bodies are really, really powerful. We can really ward off a lot of stuff. Yeah. But the more hits we take, the less effective we become. Yeah. And so, you know, I was always taught from a young age, you know, outside in, you know, the power that made the body heals the body, and your body is the ability to heal. Yeah. But it's just like a car. You put lousy gas in the car's not going to last you as long, you know, and when we continuously put lousy stuff in, and actually there's been research that shows us that generations of lousy food have made the diabetes and the heart disease more prevalent and at a younger age. So the newer research is saying that, okay, so you know, the those that were born in the 70s and the 60s, you were like one generation of the junk. Like that's when it kind of started. It was starting a little earlier, but that's when it really started to hit. But if you had kids and then your kids had the junk and then your kids had the junk, they're really setting themselves up for some really, because they didn't even get, you know, the start. They didn't even get the base work, and they're believing that genetically we're also passing on these corrupt genes. You know, like it's almost like passing on files like in a computer, right? And passing these on, you know. And when we look at it that way, boy, that's really scary. Yeah. But that's very bothersome to me.
Now that you said that, I mean, I have two daughters, and one of the older one is eating. She eats a lot better than the younger one. The young one's still trying to going through the fast food, grabbing whatever's packaged fast, quick, because she's on the go, on the go, on the go. And then, not that my older one's not, but she takes more time and is more conscious of her decisions to eat whole foods, more whole foods, and she knows, what's good for her. And that's funny that I just now realized that, I think, that you said that.
Yeah, the other thing I think you mentioned was garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
and that's one thing why we have started this, thinking more about it, because we're getting into the age where there's really no going back, and there's not a lot of time to adjust and make changes. And so I think the what we carry into our older age is going to determine how well we age, and we always say we don't want to outlive our wellness, and so that's what's got us really, not Terry, me. I'll say me. I'm the old one. So it's got what me has got thinking about. You have to really think about what we're putting in. We should eat to live, not live to eat. Another revelation that I had is we went up to our little favorite restaurant, and we had some chips and a margarita, and after we got through, I'm like, well, why did we even go up there? We could have ate or drank at home. We went up there for the experience. I could have had the same experience with Terry sitting on a patio with a glass of water and no chips. And so, again, I'm not great at this, but I'm trying to rethink this about what it does. It's not about what you're eating as much as the company you're with and the spot that you're in, that we can enjoy that and still eat good food.
That's and that's what makes it so complicated. There's no easy answer. Like, I love when they make quotes, because I do have a quote weight loss program that I offer, and you always hear, oh, diets don't work, and I love to argue that point. I'm like, listen, if they didn't, people lose weight when they're on a diet. They do.
Right.
But what you need to say is that they're not sustainable, and that's
Right.
true. We know that. So it's like, so don't say they don't work. They do. Otherwise people wouldn't be using them, because people lose weight on them all the
Right.
time. But it's we're so hell bent on, I got to lose the weight. I guess, for vanity purpose, and that's fine. That's fine. I think over the years, what we've done though is that, my parents' generation, they just wanted to live long. It's like, because back then their parents didn't live long. So it's
Right.
like, so they were like, we just want to live to a certain age. So instead of dying at 60, we want to be able to live to be 80. Okay. And so and they got their wish. People were living that long. My grandmother lived, she was almost 107.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I take that back. Wait, I take that back. 97.
Okay.
But all her
Even
faculties, like, she wasn't even on a medication. And but now it's like, okay, that's not just enough anymore. I said, I think right before we got started, how old my kids are. And like, so my kids are, 27, 17, and 7. I'm 51 and a half, actually, So you do the calculations. And when my youngest one graduates high school, because I just had one that graduated high school in June. But when my youngest graduates high school, I don't want people to go up and her and say, "Oh, is this your grandmother?"
Right.
Actually, what I want them to say is, "Oh, is this your sister?" Like, that's what I want.
Yeah, right.
And so now it's okay. It's not good enough just for me to live long. I want to enjoy every moment of my life,
Right.
and be active and participating, and not be a burden on my children,
Right.
or society. I want to, so that means that I have to do what it takes for me. We're always looking outward. Oh, if I don't look young, I'll go to the plastic surgeon, or I'll get this procedure done or something. If I don't feel good, I'm going to go and get, gastric bypass if I'm too overweight, because nobody wants to put in the work.
Right.
And you never had a problem putting in the work getting this way. Like, that's the funny part, because it was
Yeah.
enjoyable,
Right.
But you're like, okay, you can't expect nothing to happen. Again, it's the same thing that I had said before. It's like, people are shocked when the doctor says, oh, you have to go on medication for this or that. I remember years ago, my ex, his family has a history of heart disease and diabetes, and he's always been overweight. And then I was overweight as well. But luckily for me, the overweight didn't go to any type of morbidity. But he was in his late 30s, and he comes home and he was all mad. He goes, you never believe what the doctor said to me. And I'm like, what? He goes, I have to go on high blood pressure meds. My blood pressure is elevated. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, he said, lose the weight because you're fat. Lose the weight and you won't have to go on the medication. He's like, could you believe he said that to me? And I started laughing. I was like, good. I'm glad he said that to you because you are like you are. And we're afraid of the F word. And God forbid we say that F word. We don't, the doctors get in trouble for saying it. Oh, I'm sensitive. This is what I say. Nobody's saying you don't look beautiful. Everybody looks beautiful the way they are. I don't care. I don't care how big, how small they are. It's not about that. It's about your health.
Right.
And if body fat equals disease, which it does, it increases your risk of certain diseases, and usually the ones that are real common in this country. If excess body fat increases your risk, then get rid of the excess body fat.
Right.
That's it. And then you don't have to worry about going on meds. You don't have to be sick or whatever, His mother just passed away. She was 72 and she had diabetes for years, and she died in October. And and she had been in the hospital the whole entire summer. Since the summer, she was in the hospital because of the advanced stage of her diabetes, and her kidneys started shutting down. And I was surprised that she lasted as long as she did, because she was in and out of the hospital for the last 4 years. So to me, that's not quality. That's not okay. Like I want, if my kids want to, if my grandkids someday, soon want to be climbing up on, the playscape outside, I'm going to be climbing on there with them.
Right.
I don't want to be saying, oh my God, my back hurts, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's a choice. It's a choice. And I'm not saying it's an easy choice. There are those moments where you're like, that cookie looks really good, and it's like, and then you say, okay, well, if I haven't had the cookie in a while, I haven't eaten this poorly in a while, can I have it? Bless those people who are avid. I mean, I got to tell you, like, that are clean dieters 100% every single day. I'll admit it, that's not me. I would say 96% of the time I am. But there's always those moments. But I go in with an awareness knowing, okay, I know that if I eat this or I drink this, there's probably going to be consequences to pay. And I'm going to have to live with that. And then I'm going to have to take it easy and not do that again for a while.
So barring a death sentence from your physician, how do you get going? How do you keep going? What's the sustainability secret? Help me, Lori. Help me. I meant to call you BB. I'm going to call you BB for badass.
BB? That sounds good. So first off, you have to want to. That's the number one.
It.
Like nobody can ever talk you into doing anything unless you really want to. Like if there's the want there. And so you're right. It's usually we do get that death sentence. That's what gives us the push. Or some people not even anymore. Some people they don't even care. They're like, whatever. But you have to have your wants. So you have to think of it emotionally, mentally, physically, physiologically. Like, okay, how am I feeling? How do I look? Throw it all in there. So again, when people say, well, it's not about vanity, listen, it is for me. It was, like I'm 51. I wanted to not just lose the weight because it's better for my health. I want to look damn good. Like I want to be, it's not like I didn't feel sexy being overweight, but I feel a lot sexier that I lost 40 pounds. I got to tell you, it's a heck of a lot more fun buying clothes. So you just have to say, okay, just let's go through the whole thing. The more emotional connection you put, the more meaning you put to it, the more successful you'll be. Okay, so then you say, all right, so emotionally and mentally and physically I'm connected. I want to do this. But your body will fight. Your subconscious brain will kick in. This is what you're saying. And this is funny because I did some training with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I highly recommend. He's fabulous. And he tells it so remarkably well and so easy. This is what he says. He says, you have two conversations with the subconscious and the conscious, and the body is attached to the subconscious. It's the autopilot. Body does everything. That's why you just grab, the food and you just put it in your mouth before you thought about it. Right. So this is what the body does. The body says, oh, you want to change? All right, I'll humor you for now. That's fine. We'll change. We'll get up in the morning at 5 a.m. We'll go work out, and I don't really like it, but we'll do it. because in the back, the body's going, they'll give them a week. They'll be, that'll be it, and then we'll get our way. And that's exactly what happens, because every day gets a little harder and a little harder and a little harder. And then when we give into it, so if you say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go work out and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to do all these things, and then the alarm goes off and you go, I'm going to hit the snooze for 5 minutes. The body goes, yes, we're already winning. Like, we're already winning. We got the snooze in. Tomorrow will be a little longer snooze. And then tomorrow we'll just say, well, I won't do it today. I'll take a break. I did so well that, and then the body goes, yes, yes. Because here's the deal. It's not that the body doesn't like you. The body's just following what you told it to do all those years ago.
Yeah.
The body's saying, well, you said we didn't have to get up. You said we didn't have to exercise. You said you didn't mind looking like this. You said you liked eating this stuff. Why are you changing now? So when somebody pulls out the numbers, I love when they pull the numbers and they go, oh, it takes 90 days to break a habit. Oh, if you Google, there's like so many days.
Yeah.
This is the reality. This is what it takes. It takes anywhere between a week and a year to break a habit.
Wow.
Some are easier than others.
Yeah.
It just depends. But the point is that when you get the resistance, and this is answering your question, Terry, is that once you do get started, you need accountability. You need people to help you be accountable, because you can't do it alone. It's just, food is addictive, but it's also necessary. We need to eat it. It's like an alcoholic. An alcoholic has people to back them up. They have a sponsor.
Right.
They don't have to have it in the house. But how do you tell that to somebody who you have to have food in the house? Like, you can't just leave the food out and go, I'm not buying any of this anymore,
Yeah.
But so you need multiple accountability partners. You need somebody that's going to be able to answer the phone in the middle of the night, or if you get up really early, or if I'm going through this, and you can't just rely on one sponsor, like, quote, sponsor for yourself. You have to go in and announce it to everybody around you. This is what I want. I want to eat this way now. I want to look this way. I want to weigh this. I want to have this amount of body fat. The reason you have to tell them all that is because they're also very used to you as you are. And it's uncomfortable for them for you to change. So if all of a sudden, like, especially like mothers,
yes.
What do you mean you're not eating this? It's like an insult. Like, I mean, that's the Italian. What are you talking about? You eat more. No, I don't want it. I'm watching what are you talking about? So you have to also announce it to them and say, I really, really need your support on this. So, and if you can't be there to support me, just don't dangle it in front of me. Don't enable me. So it's a lot of conversation, a lot of communication, a lot of writing things down, and it's everything to redirect your mind so that you don't do it. Notes everywhere. Don't eat this. Don't eat this. Don't buy this, And like you said, that mindlessness, be mindful about it.
Yeah, it's hard. You just got to slow down because I'm so that way. You wake up, or not wake up, but, you kind of come to and like, oh, I just ate this whole big old stuff I wasn't supposed to eat. And you're so right on the habits that, you have the best of intentions, but it just takes time. It takes sometimes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of willpower.
Well, and when we talked to you the first time, I have Joe Dispenza's book that you had suggested. Right. I don't even know what the habits.
Breaking the habit of being yourself.
Yes, breaking the habit. I can't even think. It's sitting right there on my nightstand.
What a great title.
Fabulous.
It is. I mean, it's good. I'm not finished with it, but I have it there, and I've started it, and I am expecting great things, and I will share it with Roy. But I do share. I mean, he'll be reading something else, and I'll be, hey, he's saying this, and he's like, I'm trying to read. But we've heard his name thrown around a lot, so there's something to what is coming out of his mouth and from his pen.
He is, and I recommend it to your audience and to both of you. It's the three. There's the three amigos. They're called. It's Dr. Joe Dispenza, it's Dr. Bruce Lipton, and it's Greg Braden. And Greg Braden is more of the spiritual, but it's still the mindset, just like Joe talks about. Joe is more of the science, meditation guy, and then Dr. Bruce Lipton is the epigenetics guy.
Okay.
And he's the one talking about how you can literally rewrite your genes. And, we all have these, we all have the markers the quote. I love when doctors say stuff like that. Oh, we have the marker. You have a family history of diabetes and heart disease, so you have the genetics for it, so you're gonna get it. And it's like, so what epigenetics, and this is a total science. This epigenetics says they're there, but something turns them on.
Yeah.
And once they're turned on, then the disease process will start. And if you can turn them on, then you should be able to turn them off. And the way we turn them on is through our lifestyle. It's our eating, it's our stress levels, it's our lack of sleep. And that's why most kids aren't born, they're not born, or they don't develop diabetes. And when I say that, I'm talking about type 2 diabetes, I'm talking about adult onset. They're not born with that. If they're going to be born with or get diabetes when they're children, it's type 1, and that's a different entity. But we're talking about they're not born with atherosclerosis, and they don't develop it at 5. This is years of living our life. It's a lifestyle. So when you look at a newborn and you look at, or a 3-year-old, and if you look at that kid and say, oh, well, you have the genetics for that, so might as well put you on the meds now, or something, something stupid like that. But the reason we can prevent it, or why is it that people have a heart attack, and that's their wake up call, and then they massively change their diet, and they start exercising, they start running, and next thing you know, they're running. They've slimmed down, they're off their meds, and they're running marathons. Like,
right.
How is that possible? Because that's the way the body works.
Yeah.
We can reverse things with it, unless we get so bad.
Right.
But that's why and some people just give up and they'll say, it's too late. It's never too late. Again, it's about, it's the expression. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. So true.
That is so true.
I was going to ask you, I know we have talked about a lot of things and we're getting short on time, but can you talk about your 7 core pillars of alignment?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know what we'll have to do is get you to come back on where we could talk just more in depth about that.
Yeah, no, I'll talk really quick about them. So it's 7. It's when you're looking at aligning with your, like, living the healthy life, living an abundant life. If you don't address all these things, then there'll always be something missing. You'll always be off. You'll be misaligned in that way. So what it is it's your mental being, your emotional being, your physical being, your physiological being, meaning how you function, how your body functions, your spiritual being, your social being, and then your financial being. And you could be in the greatest health and in the best of shape, and you eat well and you meditate, but your finances stink. That's going to add stress, and that's going to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, and that's going to take its toll. And so when you work on every single one of those pieces, that's how you're going to live an abundant life. And we're not saying that you have to have all these things and all these tangible items. It's just a matter of just what's important to you.
Right.
So when you have to define each of those for yourself, but work towards all of them.
Yeah.
So and they do come in steps. That's why it's interesting when people lose a lot of weight. They'll get divorced sometimes because they've transformed their body, but they also transformed their themselves. And they don't know why. They're like, I don't know why. Like, I don't want to be with this person anymore. My significant other doesn't want to be with me anymore, just because I lost the weight. Or they'll get meaner because they get so angry that they didn't do this sooner, or they're just different. Or it's also the same reason why people fail at it and gain the weight back, because the weight loss, the physical change and the physiological change, their mental and emotional states weren't prepared for it.
Interesting.
It's like when somebody wins the lotto. When they win the lottery, the reason a lot of them lose, it's like a really crazy statistic. It's like 85% who win the lottery are right back to where they were within a 5 to 10 year mark or something like that,
right.
Because they didn't change their mindset. They didn't. There was a mental and emotional connection to the lack of money, or maybe not lack, but the middle class or whatever class they were in, that they couldn't fit into all of a sudden I have all this money, and they couldn't make it happen. So that's where that came up with, and that really came up. It's not like, I mean, there's all types. You hear there's 4 things, there's 6 things, there's that. But this was really specific to what I noticed about my growth.
Wow.
And it does align with what other people say, but that's just those are the 7. And you can do all of those things, but if you don't have the social element, it's a moot point.
Yeah.
So any one of them, if you don't feel like completely aligned or authentic, that's the other piece, is that you're aligning with your authentic self. So if you don't feel that you're resonating with each of those pillars for who you are in a positive way, then you'll need the work. Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter who you get the work from. It's just, you got to do the work,
Yeah.
Well, and you said also you also have an Evict the Fat wellness program. I wanted you to talk about a little bit about that too. I know we're time crunching here,
So
but
it's a 6-week program, and it's based off the Cairo weight loss program, which is a chiropractic program. It's only
Oh no. Can you still hear me?
mm-hmm. Well,
my internet's unstable. Can you hear me?
oh, we
now you-
froze.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
You went away at the chiropractic
at Cairo Thin.
Yeah. So the Cairo program is it's a 6-week weight loss program marketed specifically to chiropractors, and it's a combination of supplements and eating eating protocol, intermittent fasting, cutting certain things out, elimination protocol, so certain foods you don't eat, and minimal exercise. Like there's specific exercises that you do. But what I added to mine, that's why I call it the Evict the Fat program, is that I added the coaching piece, because, you can get people to go on this. But listen, I went on it the first time and I cheated myself. So it's like, so I'm like, I got to be accountable here. I'm supposed to be the doc, So I did it. I packaged it one day and I said, I'm going to just put some group coaching sessions with it. And I'm going to go on it myself with the group. And that's how I lost the 40 pounds. And I did it from like mid-June to the beginning of November. I lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
So, and it's great, and it's marketed as a weight loss program, but it's really an anti-inflammatory elimination protocol, and then you just sort of eat that from that point going forward. And I mean, you feel fabulous after. I mean, the weight loss is like a side effect, I always say. But I have people getting off meds, lowering meds, being diagnosed with autoimmune diseases where it's either went into remission or their symptoms are a lot less. So, I mean, and in the end, that's what it's really all about.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to get you to promise to come back and see us. There's so much more. We could talk for hours.
could.
We know that you have somewhere.
Absolutely.
We know you have a
Solve the
fun
world's
place to go
problem.
to.
Yeah.
I know, yes. I have to go back and I have to watch. I better be careful what I eat and drink there. So I have to go party.
Yeah, that's kind of a downer after you've had your discussion with us, and then you have to go there.
So what is a habit or a tool? What's something that you do every day in your life that you feel adds a lot of value, professional or personal?
I am a mindfulness practice person. That's what I do. I don't, if I don't do it in the morning, which my intention is always to do something like a meditation, breathing, manifesting, I will do it throughout the day. But gratitude is probably the biggest piece for me.
Yeah.
I really throughout my day, different times, I will talk, think about what I'm grateful for, say it out loud. Something comes up and I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful for this.
Yeah.
And it's such a game changer. And, even when it's a bad situation, what can I learn from this? So I'm going to be grateful for this piece.
Yeah.
And I always feel worse when I don't do it. Like if I notice that I'm in a bad mood, I have to think back and go, when was the last time I said, maybe it was like in the morning and it's like all day. Okay, that's it. Then what am I grateful for right now? I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for moments like this to be able to speak and share my knowledge,
Yeah. Well,
Well,
we were grateful that you
yeah.
took time out of your day to be here too.
We are.
And I think
Thank
that
you.
is awesome. No matter how bad things are, there's usually somebody that's got things a lot worse than we'll ever know. So just being thankful for being able to have some sunshine in our day or whatever, other positive things are going on. Sometimes just to live through a day we have
Right.
gratitude for that too.
Right.
Yep.
All right, Dr. Lori. Well, tell everybody, who do you like to work with, how you can help them, and of course, how can they reach out and get a hold of you?
So you could reach out to me. I have a website, drlorimonaco.com. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn under the same name, Dr. Lori Monaco. Instagram, I am the Badass Buddha One, and let's see, TikTok, the Badass Buddha, and I also have YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Viva Café con Leche, and Dr. Lori Monaco. I work with. I really love working, especially with people who are really new to coaching, that have never really coached before, that have that idea that they're really not worth it, or they're stuck, or they have depression or anxiety. I do work with men and women. I guess I tend to work with women more so, but that's just the way it is sometimes. And I do work with teens and younger, but I think vast majority of my people are like in their 20s and up. But it's for people that really, I'm a cheerleader. I'm in your face. I'm, but I'm also your biggest fan. Like that, and that's, I think, I balance between loving and pushing,
Yeah.
without enabling. And so for anybody who feels like maybe they can't work with a coach that's so hardcore, or, is too regimented. I'm regimented, but I have a whole way of doing my regimen. So, but it works. It works really well. So,
Okay.
The BB regiment.
yes, the BB.
BB.
All right. Well, y'all reach out to Dr. Lori, see how she can help you. I mean, a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much again. Great conversation. And we'll get you back on. We could go into a little bit more of this stuff more in depth
Great.
next
Thanks,
time.
Roy. Thanks, Carrie, for having me on.
Thank
And thanks,
you.
Tribe, for listening to
Yeah.
me today.
Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Feeding Fatty podcast. I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
You can find us at www.feedingfatty.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to, please reach out. I'd be glad to get it added to make your listening easier. Also, we're on all the major social media platforms. Tend to hang out probably more on Instagram. And we will put up a video of this interview when it goes live. So go over to the YouTube channel and check that out. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your health.